Right on, man. Here it is, episode 58 of the Rock Savages podcast. As always, we are brought to you guys by rocksavagepod.com. You guys can roll over there and download all of our episodes for free. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the handle rocksavagepod. Also, you can check us out on our YouTube channel. Feel free to jump over there and subscribe. We're also on Vero and Minds and Gab as well. So just do a search over there at any one of those social media outlets and follow us, man. Follow us, tweet us, DM us, and we'll talk back, you know. It's all good. I just want to say thanks to everyone who came out to the Burn Blue Sky shows over the past weekend in Cleveland and Canton. We played the Happy Dog in Cleveland on Detroit Avenue with our good friends in the band Contra, and it was pretty cool, man. That's a really cool venue, and hopefully they'll have us back real soon. So thanks to everybody that supported that. And then the next night we played with the Cold Stairs, Bottled Conditioned, and Motel Faces at the Buzzbin in Canton, which is also a very cool venue. And again, thanks to everyone that came out to that one. Today's episode is with Chris and Brian from the Cold Stairs. They were kind enough to sit down and have a little chat with me about their latest record, Headbent, and their new one, which they're working on now. It's called Ways, and they will be recording songs for that coming up. They have also decided to start their own record label. So we get into all that and a whole lot more. We had a really good conversation. Those guys are really cool dudes, hard-working guys, and they're lifers, you know. I think they're going to be on this scene for a long time, and they should be. They're very talented. They're talented songwriters. I think that's what matters to all of us the most. You know, you got to have the song there. You can have the sound, but if you don't have the song, man, just not going to do it, you know? You guys can pick up their latest record, Headbent, through Small Stone Recordings. It's also on iTunes. I'm sure you can buy it on Amazon. And it's definitely on Spotify, so follow them over there if you do not do the iTunes thing, you know. Just support these guys. You can also buy their vinyl at their shows. They recently just did a show with Rival Sons down, I believe it was in Memphis or Nashville. I can't remember, but they're getting out there, man. They're getting ready to play a show with Duff McKagan's band from Guns N' Roses and the Walking Papers, and they've done a lot of cool things like that. If you guys are interested in the Cold Stairs, you can check out a mini documentary on YouTube. It is called Look Over Yonder Hill, a film about the Cold Stairs, and that's kind of where I got introduced to them. Aside from their music, they have a pretty interesting story. It's filled with trials and tribulations, and that's how I know that these guys have gotten through all that. So, they're going to be victorious. They're going to keep doing this until they're in it till they win it. You know, so. Very cool dudes, man. Check them out, coldstairs.com. Check out the mini doc and check out their full-length album, Headbent. And now that that's all out of the way, I guess we'll get into this interview with Chris and Brian from the Cold Stairs. All right, this one... I've done a lot of podcasts now, but this one's special for me because this is the first time I get to do a podcast with a band I'm playing with at the same time. Usually we travel all over the place and do these things whenever a band that we love comes to town. So I know we've been talking for a while.
Yeah, man.
Off and on online.
Yeah, we were just going to hop right over and do the podcast till we realized it was like 7-8 hours away.
Yeah, it might not be worth it.
Take the podcast, so it's cool.
Yeah. We'll do it anytime you guys want to come in. Anytime you're coming into town, you know, we'll be here. We're the satellite, which gets to the breaking news from the Cold Stairs, and that's you guys are starting your own label, huh?
Well, yeah, I think that's what it is these days. Anytime you do a record by yourself, we're basically deciding to do this record ourselves. So I'm sure we'll spend 15 minutes coming up with some crazy name to call the label, but
Yeah.
I mean, we're set up. We have all the avenues set up to do all that stuff already. So we're, it doesn't make any sense not to do it at this
Right.
point.
We kind of feel the same way because we've been an independent band our entire existence since 2000, which we're just basically high school friends, weekend warriors, but all original musicians. So I mean, we've tried to court the labels and stuff, and it just gets to the point where, I mean, you can't. It's hard to do what you want to do without being bothered. I think the days largely are over where you're signing to a label and they leave you alone. Aside from the independent world,
I think it seems to me that most of the labels out there, it's kind of like society in general. In a lot of places, I think you had regular working class, and then upper middle class, and then the rich, and it's the same with the labels. You used to have small indie labels, and then you kind of had your mid labels, and then you had your Warner Brothers and Atlantics. And now I think it's either a couple conglomerate giant
Huge.
Labels, or it's people that love music that are willing to invest $10,000 in a band, and see if they can get a $12,000, $15,000 return on it.
No middle class labels, if you will.
Right.
Just nobody.
Right. Except for maybe the large independents like the End Records or somebody like that that's doing pretty well.
Yeah,
or
and
Relapse or whatever.
Even those, I think what we've learned in the last 3 or 4 years talking with labels is most of those deals are $15,000, $20,000 deal, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not. There's not going to be any tour support. There's not going to be any.
It's just strictly for the record.
It's for the record, and even at that, they want your publishing because there's no money being made in streaming. So if you're a band that's getting some licensing, then let's do the deal, and we're going to keep all the publishing, and then they're going to make their money back on that. But like we have publishing deals, we have sync deals. Now we have a booking agent. It makes more sense to us to raise the money ourselves and do the record.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd rather raise the money and give free stuff out to our fans. Than it go back to a record label that.
Yeah, because those are the people that are going to pay your bills anyway.
It just makes
support your music.
And it was great with Small Stone because Scott, the guy that runs the label, is a big fan of the band and will continue to be, and we're a big fan of him. Investing that label's money into bands that are good hard rock bands. And
there's a bunch of great bands on there.
Yeah. So that's great, and we'll always be a Small Stone band. We're proud to have put the album out on that label, but we just didn't want it. We wanted to hold the reins completely on this next record. And
now it seems like the only metric for some artists to get signed is what your popularity already is.
Social media.
I mean, Cardi B or the chick from Maury Povich that's yelling at some old lady, so they're instantly gonna, have X amount of downloads just based off popularity. It doesn't matter if the art has any value or not. And, it's just not really something we want to be associated with.
Right.
Not like we had an offer from those labels, but it's just we like being in control of our own thing when we have, we've made our own records, produced them, mixed them, engineered them, and we have some help with the booking now and all those things. So I don't really see what the point is unless it were a life changer,
Yeah, right.
That's just,
big money.
We're not delusional. So,
but even big money, if you're talking about if we were talking about a giant label and they said they're going to spend a couple $100,000 on PR, and that's, I guess, what in my mind a big label, the giant labels would do. How are you going to recoup that kind of money?
Pretty much not.
You're not going to unless you take everything that the band gets coming in. And 20 years ago, to make a record might cost you $100,000, or a record or whatever, and then some promotion behind it. But now you can do that for 10 to 20 grand, legitimately. So rather than owe anybody the money back, and I think when you get to the point, I think the threshold's around 3,000 to 5,000. You have 3,000 to 5,000 fans. I mean, if those people will invest $50 to $100 in you. You can do something to give back to them and grow without owing any kind of corporate stuff. And
especially if you guys do like a Patreon or like a Kickstarter kind of thing.
I think it's probably what we're going to do is go the Kickstarter route. That way we can offer a lot of things back if you invested, and this is what you're going to get.
I think it's all win-win when you do something like that.
It is.
Cut out that middleman.
I think so too. At least now. Now, when we first started, we talked to major labels, and we recorded, and it looked very seductive at the time.
Right.
But when you figure out that all that money has got to be paid back.
Yeah, it's a bank. Yeah. Basically. Yeah. It's a loan.
With a very bad interest rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not in your favor ever.
Yeah, it's not. It's just, it's good. So I hopefully we're watching some other bands do this. Our good friends Tyler Bryant, the Shakedown, they've been out with Guns N' Roses stuff. They did the Self thing on their last album.
Yeah.
Seeing some other bands do this and do fairly well on it now almost seems like the exception. I know Rival Sons just signed with the Atlantic subsidiary, but for the most part, I think folks are doing it their own way.
Yeah, the Rival Sons have some pull right now, so those guys are smart, man. Like I've listened to, I haven't met him, but I've listened to Scott Holiday like on interviews. He was on the Dean Del Rey podcast, and I think he was breaking it down on there. He's like, we own everything.
Yeah.
We just license the record out to the label. It's like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they own their masters and everything. So I mean, they're in a real good spot.
See, we do not own the masters on the last record.
Yeah.
And
was that tape?
Was that what?
Was that on tape? Headbent?
No. Well, we did Headbent. We tracked some of it on tape, and then it's all going to digital world eventually.
Yeah,
so
you dump it down.
We kind of had the best of both worlds. We got a good friend that we've recorded the last few projects with. It's kind of the best of both worlds. But we did not own the masters on it, and then going out on the backside, the licensing stuff that we started to get, it just all goes to the label. So
yeah, that's kind of a bummer, man. Yeah.
And we want him to make back the money. We want the label to make their money back, but it's tough pill to swallow for me to write lyrics and to be invested in something and then
you give it
away. I'd rather publishing,
forever, really. I mean, not forever, but I'm sure that expires. But a long time, you want to be able to draw some of that back on yourself. I mean, it's easier now than ever before.
You don't feel like you own it. You feel like you've given it away. Even if you get money back on it, you feel like, I wrote this and it's so personal to you, and then you're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, it might be good still to do what you guys did with Headbent, and to sign one record deal or whatever it was, and
it's
push
amazing.
It out there a little farther.
Cast the net. And
then draw it back in, hopefully.
And we kind of talked a little bit maybe about doing another we talked to Small Stone about doing another record with them, and then we kind of threw out a little bit of a fishing net to see what we'd want to do with some other labels, but it's all basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But we just, I don't know. It doesn't. One thing that was really funny to us was prior to signing Small Stone, we could release something, and we basically went through the same process. We write and record.
Yep.
And we tell everybody we got a new record out, and it's out, and everybody's like, "Oh, great!
Come buy it." Yeah.
New record. When we did it with Small Stone, we were like, "Okay, they sent out a press release, Cold Stare signed with Small Stone. All of a sudden now the record's legit."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Cold Stares they signed, and then we're trying to.
We did it in the exact same studio in the exact same fashion as all the other records,
But all of a sudden, we're at Pangea and getting recognized, and it's all of a sudden. So I think the public still thinks, if you're on a record label, it's legit. So
it's like a stamp of approval.
It is, and we've had that. We've been there, and we've done our work with Mark Needham, and we've worked with Grammy Award winning people, and we've worked with our friends, and some of those people that were highly sought after and thought of were our friends too. But
right.
We don't want to work with anybody that's not our friends.
Right.
Well, we don't want to play with anybody that's not our friends.
Yeah. Well, you're probably going to have to. I mean, you're going to run across bands that you're going to have to play with, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens to all of us.
I don't know if you saw the post in Birmingham, and those guys are nice guys, but that was a good point. You're probably right on that, because we played with some bands it was like a modern day Christopher Cross. It was really light.
Oh, yeah.
We went on, and it was like,
we played a show last night in Cleveland, and we get to the venue, and this is a great venue. It's called Happy Dog. So if you guys ever come through Cleveland,
yeah.
we'll hook you up. But or maybe we can all do this again sometime. But we walk in, and it's like real kind of hipster and real low key. And there's a guy playing the piano, playing like Ben Folds 5. And we're like, oh shit,
yeah,
we're gonna scare the fuck out of you guys, which we've done before. I mean, we played like the Hard Rock cafes and stuff. I just don't know if we belong there because we're ahead. Our band is tailored to do, play with heavier bands and then the more rock and roll bands. So we do a little bit of everything, but we were way heavier, and people were trying to eat dinner in front of our Marshall stacks at the time. And they're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's like, sorry. It's either you're going to love us or you're going to hate us. And that's cool. At least you feel something about it, I guess.
We have this one thing about this band, and we've been really blessed with this, is ever since we started, it wouldn't matter who you put us in front of.
Yeah.
Like we've played in front of a very mixed, ethnicities and ages and sexes, and we've always done really well. Even with older people, they'll come up at the show, hey, I really was blown away. It was just you two guys. Yeah. The one crowd that we have encountered that doesn't seem to get it is the 19 to 23-year-old kind of hipster.
Really?
The new kids.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's just, and I say that. I don't want to generalize that it's all that age group.
Yeah,
but that age group that really digs the kind of ukulele stuff and the Mumford and Son stuff or whatever else, they seem to be scared off a little bit by the distortion.
Yeah, it's like,
it's songs about cotton balls and unicorn farts and just
right. Well, it seems like guitar rock is kind of going more into the underground a lot, which it's fine with me. But I mean, I wish bands like Rival Sons, again, going back to them, it's like they're kind of picking it up a notch, at least in America a little bit. It's like, yeah, see that? That's that's rock and roll too. Don't forget it.
I hate it for them though, because I don't feel like that they've caught on. I know they've done well overseas, but I've heard Scott say before, that they feel like they're a band's band, and I kind of feel like that too. It's sad, but.
I think they can do well here. I mean, I'm going to go see them in a couple weeks in Pittsburgh, and they're playing the Rex Theater, and that's pretty good. I mean, I don't know if
we're playing with them Tuesday. We're playing with them Tuesday in Whitesburg, Kentucky.
Awesome, yeah.
And it's 150 seat.
Really?
Place.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a really neat room. It's very intimate yet and sloped like a theater, but it looks like a miniature movie theater.
You guys going all electric, all of you? Both bands?
Yeah.
Just blow the doors down.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rock and roll show, but I'm sure it's humbling and amazing to them both to play Guns N' Roses show or some of these festivals overseas. They're playing 100,000 people.
Yeah,
and now they're playing 150 seat.
It
place
takes
in Whitesburg, Kentucky.
It takes a certain kind of person to do that, because I mean, I've had friends go over and play like the Vakken Open Air Festival, and then they come back here and they quit. Yeah. Because they're like, how can we go back to playing these small rooms? I'm like, well, it's just you have to have the love for music and just do it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what room it is.
You're doing it for the right reason. It won't matter, and I'm glad they're doing it. I mean, we have a few bands that are friends with, but we were talking earlier. Tyler Bryant and Rival Sons both have been out with Guns N' Roses, AC/DC.
Yeah.
Those Europe, kind of bands. There's kind of a short list of just kind of solid, good rock and roll bands to choose from if you're a legacy act like Guns N' Roses, or we're playing with Walking Papers in a couple weeks, which is Duff McKagan's side band.
Are you doing a tour? Or
we're just doing one show, doing a one-off with them.
That's great.
But we love that record, but it's the same with them. So they're going from Duff's playing 100, 200,000 people, playing in Finland and wherever else, and coming back playing with a side band for a couple hundred people.
That's what he does.
That's a dude that loves music.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
he's doing it for the right reasons.
I read an interview, and he kind of gave like a breakdown of like the European touring circuit, like on the festivals in the summer, and he just gave a breakdown of it. He's like, there's nothing glamorous about this. He's like, we're getting on a plane, we're flying 8 hours, we're getting in a van, we're barely making it on stage in time. You get on stage, you play 45 minutes, you break down, you get back in the van, go to the airport and fly to the next gig. You start getting sick, and I was like, and Duff, you don't even have to do this, man. He's like, this is what I do, and this is just how it's going to be,
Dude, I'm so proud. It's odd because you're proud of people that you don't know, but you're just so thankful that those people are continuing to try to put forth an effort for rock and roll, because there's so many people either given up or gone the wayside. And I mean, I don't know those people personally, Duff and them, but I'm like, so thankful.
They're inspirational.
Yeah, it's totally,
It's like the road you guys are going down kind of reminds me of what the band Clutch did. I don't know if you guys are hip to
we
them.
love Clutch.
We're huge fans.
Yeah, we are too. I mean, I go see them all the time. They have a special place in their heart for Ohio because they kind of broke here.
Yeah.
But they didn't get. I saw them first time I saw them was in 1996, open up for Pantera, and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys. I'm with you. But they didn't start getting really big until they started their own label.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
So I think, going that route is the way to go for you.
Yeah,
guys.
I've read some stories where some people label-wise tried to bend them to this or bend them to that because they never did really fit in.
No,
they
were a kind of weirdo band.
Thank God that they stuck to their own guns because they don't sound like anybody.
No,
and
and
Brian just saw them a few months ago in Nashville.
Yeah, they were amazing, man. That was my first and only time seeing them, and I'd always heard, man, you got to see them live. They'll blow you away.
JP
they sound like the album, maybe better.
Yeah,
and
probably better.
I didn't see how that was possible, but yet it was. It was just incredible, and we really got lucky, man. We went with a friend that knew the opening act, and my wife and I we went backstage, and it was the weirdest thing, man, because it was in Nashville. We just assumed there'd be like some industry folks there or musicians. There was no one back there. It was like us in the band.
Yeah, they're still huge and underground stories.
It was crazy, man, and it was and they were so personable and cool and all that stuff. They got some drumsticks to give to my son, so it was a great time. Great
JP
night.
is a monster. I mean, they're all monsters. I've seen them a bunch of times, but I mean, it just I'm so happy for those guys because they just took it to their own level and they have a little industry now that they made their band out of. I guess it's all about branding.
And it's probably if we're trying to emulate anybody's career, that's it. We had the agency that we just signed with ask us, what do you guys see yourself? What do you want to be? And we've never wanted to be that band from the 80s or 90s that had that one big cool hit or whatever.
Right.
We just want to sustain something that gets out there so that once we're gone, look at the body of work.
Yeah.
They never did anything they're embarrassed of.
Right.
They stay true to who they were. And
yeah, I mean, the way I feel about it is, I mean, artists don't owe anyone anything, not even their audience, really. You got to follow your muse first, record what you feel that is, and then hopefully they dig it. Those are the artists I truly, really respect, and like Clutch or Rival Sons. They just do whatever they want to do, and it comes out authentic. So, I mean, that's the route to go. That's the kind of music that I always seek out.
We're the same.
Yeah.
Authenticity. I mean, you can smell it.
Yeah, or you can feel when it's not.
And we're not really good at doing anything other than our thing.
Yeah.
I heard Cheap Trick say that they were the only band that was good at being themselves or whatever. Nobody else could be Cheap Trick as well as Cheap Trick could. And maybe there is somebody that can cover us, but we can't really do a whole lot other than what we do. What we do best anyway. We've tried to do other things along the way to make an extra buck or something.
Like
but
do a cover or something.
Well,
there's no shame in that.
We were before this band. We were in a band called Shelby and had some success, and we're at a point where we were doing some record label showcase stuff, and we were I really wanted to get signed at that point, and we all did, and so we were going, okay, this is somewhat calculated. What do we need to look like? What do we need? So the production wise, what does this need to? Because what more than anything at that moment we wanted to go, okay, could we make $30,000 a year doing this?
Yeah.
So we don't have to, go back and work the factory. Can we? And by doing that, man, it just didn't happen.
Right.
And so with this, we never once thought, let's get a record deal. We weren't even thinking about making a record when we started. We just were trying to jam.
Yeah. Well, that's where it starts, man. I mean, it's pretty cool that way. But my first impression of you guys was Headbent. And then I went back and visited the other stuff. But Headbent, to me, like listening to the lyrics, what was refreshing to me, and this might sound a little weird, but in today's age of where masculinity is demonized, I got that vibe in the lyrics of the some of the songs in there. It's like an old school, ethic. It's like don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. It's probably a Southern culture kind of thing too.
It's that and working class.
Yes.
And this album really is working class to us. And that song in particular, Headbent, I wrote that for some guys that years ago, whenever I had cancer, one of the things that was therapeutic to me was motorcycles, and I had a good friend that had gone through cancer that built a hardtail bike from scratch, which I just thought was awesome.
That's art.
Yeah. And so I had gotten on a forum with some of these guys that were building bikes, and they were just working class, solid dudes, just American dudes. Some dudes were vets, some dudes were factory workers, some dudes were, and it was just, I don't know. When I started writing that song, I thought how therapeutic it was for me to ride motorcycles on the back end of treatment.
Yeah.
And I just thought, there's something about those dudes do not care who's in Washington.
Right.
They don't care,
Yeah.
What's going on with Starbucks. All they want to do is get on that bike and hear the hum of that engine and forget about it,
Yeah. I think a lot of people need to get back more to that instead of focusing so much on the poison. I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, how like the social media, there's wonderful parts of it, and in the tools behind it to promote whatever you're promoting, or to share stuff with your family. But man, I mean, it just gets so toxic. You can't even talk about anything anymore outside of your
everything's so polarized. But going back to the point, it was that the album is not meant to be overly masculine. It's just who we are. The songs are just. But even a song like Kings, the lyrics of it, it's funny as it talks about a guy from Tennessee that goes out and kills these world leaders and then brings all the women from the country back to Tennessee. I wrote that after watching Davy Crockett. With my son, who was like 5 years old, I thought, wouldn't it be funny if Davy Crockett went and killed Napoleon and then?
Well, that's kind of like all of human history, right? That's what they did, all throughout human history.
So,
well, I didn't mean that. I meant that as a positive thing.
Yeah,
it was like it was refreshing to me to hear those themes in the lyrics because you don't hear it anymore in rock bands. They're like they're like so profound and abstract that sometimes you just don't know what some of these folks are even talking about, which there's nothing wrong with that either, but that's what was refreshing to me, is to actually get like themes within the songs and it being more traditional in the American sense of it, Yeah.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. I hope to draw, I think lyrically I always try to draw a picture that's somewhat cinematic without being too, I don't want to be too direct sometimes. Sometimes.
Do you write stories like
I write stories as songs.
Yeah, just as
so.
Songs.
My son's 11-year-old. He writes stories, screenplays.
Yeah,
he's already writing. But I always thought of every song as a movie. Like every song is visual to me.
Right.
I'm not really good at writing the abstract thing that doesn't mean anything, because it ends up just me just going black. Hurt, fire, burn,
vague, very vague.
Vague. I'll write something that's either something that's happened to me or a story. I'm a history major, and I write a lot of stuff.
That makes sense.
History.
Yeah. So. Well, the Civil War themes in the music too.
Yeah.
Well, it reminded me. A lot of that stuff reminded me of a book I read called "The Real Lincoln."
Yeah.
And it talked about like basically, it's a very good book by Thomas DiLorenzo. It's very heavily sourced, but it talks about the whole economic situation before and during the Civil War and who Lincoln really was. And I thought about that book and some of the songs and some of the elements of your songs in there. I was like, this is purely the Southern side, or the perception of it. Like it's not what we were taught it was. There's much more nuance in that whole story.
Well, I think it's that with any kind of war, or the majority of human history in general is so much more complicated. But that's I wrote Ball and Twine and try to keep it somewhat vague as far as what's what. But that story is really, it's a love story about a guy. And I had watched Hell on Wheels for about 3 or 4 seasons. And it was really a guy. It's a story about a guy going off to fight against his brothers.
And probably happened.
Yeah, and it did. There's a couple stories that I read that I kind of weaved things, but he comes home and his wife is dead, kids are gone, and he goes out on a hunt to find out who did it. And it doesn't really matter what side of the war that they're on.
Yeah,
he's gonna figure out who did it, and
they're gonna pay the price.
It's one of those revenge type things, but.
Written
my wife says, you always have to kill somebody in your song.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
But
you can't do it in real life, so you might as well do it in a song.
Every novel and every movie, has some kind of situational problem, then you have something that resolves, and it's kind of the
well,
same
like I said,
with
it goes back to that old school code of ethics. Don't mess with me. I'm really nice. It's kind of like the Southern hospitality. It's like, I'm really nice until I'm not, and then I'm really not. You know?
Right, exactly.
Which brings me to this new record. It's going to be called Ways, right? Has it been written, or are you guys still writing?
We've got probably 2 or 3 songs somewhat fleshed out, and then we just kind of have, this record has to be the record. Yeah. And we know that. And so sometimes before we've had a group of songs, this has been a hard thing for us to go, okay, what songs do we not want to record? And so we've just gone in, taken everything, kind of thrown it. This one we're really going to think out. So I think Ways kind of means 2 different directions, 2 different paths.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own ways, you know. Right. So it's, with this, I think we're going to do about a little bit more than half, around half in Memphis, and it's going to be everything that's Southern and hard rock, you know, and that kind of part of our catalog so far. And then I think what we're going to do on the other thing, I went out west year before last, and it was just amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I grew up on westerns, and being out in the desert and seeing that stuff out there really kind of blew my mind, which kind of ended up being Break My Fall on the Headbent record.
Yeah,
but I think we're going to go out there and book a studio, and we're going to go out in the middle of the desert and
Rancho
write songs.
de la Luna, dude. Go out there.
That's it, man.
Yeah, we're Queens of the Stone Age. It's not going to be mellow then. You guys are going to get that stoner rock thing
Well,
going
and that's
on.
one of the things we talked about. I told Brian, I go, dude, every time I've seen, like, Josh and the Queens of Stone Age stuff, there's something visceral and visual about knowing that that's where those records were made.
Yeah, it's vibey.
When you hear this part of Ways record, we're visually going to capture it too. We're going to take Greg, our videographer, with us, but you're going to know that song was written in the New Mexico desert, or maybe in the fossilized forest, or maybe in a ghost town where somebody was murdered, or whatever else. It's going to have a connection that we're physically going to put our foot on and write something. And
that's super rare, but super important too for a piece. You know, like that. You know, that'll bring me to like Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, where we recorded in a dungeon, you know, and they really got that spookiness to it. You know?
You can't fake it or replace that. And it was so inspiring to me out there, and Brian hadn't been to that part, and I don't think Greg's been out there, so we're gonna go out there, but I'm gonna kind of hold off writing some of that until we get out there. Yeah, and there's some stories that I kind of got in the back of my mind that I've read from out there, but it's gonna be maybe a little bit more. You know, No Country. What's the old?
No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be a little bit probably newer than the Civil War type stuff.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit more.
Go World War I. Go real dark.
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows? You know.
Yeah, you never know until we get out there. But
that's cool. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'll be keeping an eye out for sure. Well, we'll probably wrap it up. Well, I'll just let you guys know. I'll be a satellite for you. Whatever you guys need for your label, if you want to, whenever you're in town,
sure, man.
We'll do a podcast and get the word out as much as we possibly can. And like I said, I'm excited to play with you guys tonight. We're different, you know. We're heavier, but we have some lighter stuff too. And it's just, I don't care about that anymore. You know, just as long as it's rock and roll and it's good.
Yeah.
And you guys are amazing, so let's just roll
Dude, this
together.
This is the redemption show for us after playing with the ukulele stuff last week. I told Brian, I was like, I don't know, the dudes we're playing with in Ohio play heavy rock, so I think we're cool for this show.
It's going to be noisy.
Yeah,
It's going to be noisy for sure.
Good.
Yeah, cool, man. All right, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.